Hi, I'm faculty editor Virginia Shank, and I'm here today with poet Stephen Wing, who's going to read and talk to us about Omens of an Evening.
Thank you, Virginia. Well, seeing this poem finally exposed to the light is like digging up a time capsule from the distant past. I wrote it almost 40 years ago, in my early 20s, for a woman I met at my parents' church who had the most tragic eyes I'd ever seen. She had split up from the boyfriend she later married, a real fairy tale damsel in distress. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend at the time because I was still a gypsy vagabond, just stopping through Chicago to visit my parents, and my true commitment back then was to the road. But I was also a lonely kid and a romantic idiot, and she was so sad and gaunt, and her eyes were so big and dark that I leaned a little too close and more or less fell in, head over heels. So here is the first poem of quite a few that I wrote for her. It's Omens of an Evening. Collecting the omens of an evening walk. Man on a leash, waiting for his pet to finish sniffing at something in the grass. I calculate the chances of your call. They add every time to an irrational number. I am afraid I will forget how to count back down. Pigeon almost white, swooping down out of half-light like a soiled dove. The wet calligraphy of trees escapes me, a litter of auguries along the sidewalk gone illegible in dust puddles. The fixed constellation of streetlights not yet lit. Traffic light down between two mailboxes, blinking don't walk, in urgent amber at the sky. I stand straddling it too long, trying to make out a meaning, and almost miss my chance to cross. Have I missed your call? Thank you. And thanks for rescuing this poem from the obscurity of my long ago youth.
It's a beautiful poem. I think one of the reasons that we appreciated it, why it stood out in the stack for us, was the way that those parentheticals work and the kind of interruptive observations of the world as the speaker's inside of their head. I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit about the form of the poem or how you shaped it with those two threads kind of coming together.
Well, obviously back then I wasn't thinking about how I was going to read it. There's really no way to read a parenthesis. So it just comes as kind of a interruption of the flow. Um, but it's something I have done a lot over the years. Usually I use italics instead, but I have italics already in the don't walk. So the parenthesis, I guess, is an experimental way of setting off one voice from the other, the voice that's thinking versus the voice that's observing.
Thank you. So you mentioned that this is a poem you wrote 40 years ago. Can you tell me a little bit about its journey out into the world? Were you sending it out for 40 years or was it waiting in the wings somewhere?
Well, I kind of burned out on sending out poems trying to get published back in the 90s. I had quite a few poems published, but almost all of them in general circulation, mainstream magazines. Um, I don't think I had anything in a literary publication except locally here in Atlanta. So after going at it for 10 years or so, I finally burned out and turned to other things, working at a job with my marriage, volunteering at a neighborhood nonprofit, and of course, various forms of activism. And I kept writing poetry all that time, but they just started piling up. And this is one of the older ones, since it didn't get published during that spree of sending things out. It had to wait till now.
That it made its way out into the world, and I'm glad it found us.
Yeah, I have included it in a manuscript that I'm circulating, more or less my best work over all those 40 years. Um, Everything that didn't get published in my first collection in 1992. I wintered it down to the best of those years, and it's about 100 pages of poetry. So hoping someone will take notice.
Would you mind saying a little bit about your process as a writer? What is it like for you to draft, to edit, to get the poem from point A to point B?
Well, my only real discipline as a writer is to always carry paper, folded up piece of paper in my wallet and a pen, and collect observations, insights, things that jump out at me from my journey through the world. And so I tend to have a whole list of phrases, just a phrase or two, that I jot down and collect. And for a while, I had a box of them. And when I had a chance, I would leaf through those and try to piece things together. Although often one of those phrases, if I uh, started looking at it, it would start to expand, and it would become like a seed that would grow into a whole poem just from that one observation that jumped out at me and I carried with me. Other times I found that I could piece them together in like a jigsaw puzzle, and things that I was ruminating on in my subconscious mind would pop out here and there in a little fragment, and often I could string them together. I found that they would add up to something, and I have some experimental poems that are made of fragments that don't necessarily go together in a rational way, but they all refer to some underground process, like an underground river that's flowing on, even though I'm oblivious to it most of the time. When I really focus, I find that there is a not necessarily a rational process, but something coherent, at least to me, that I can put together later on. And the whole trick is to, if I have to connect things and write something to connect point A and point B, to make it indistinguishable, as if it all came out spontaneously. And of course, that's with all the arts. The whole trick is to make it appear as if it just popped out whole and complete, and no one ever had to lift a finger to shape it. That's the way it makes the biggest impact on a reader if they can't see the marks of the chisel that resulted in the sculpture.